Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me, Aiden, from Cartoon Apocalypse, and welcome back to another Miraculous Ladybug news video. Now today, we have sort of a leak slash maybe something that wasn't necessarily supposed to be revealed kind of video, and that is on the new or the next Queen Bee. As always, if you want to stay updated on all of the news related to Miraculous, I highly recommend that you go ahead and subscribe because I will update you whenever we hear new news. But yeah, let's just go ahead and hop right into this video. So just a little bit of backstory, the Lavana Solomon's family channel, I probably mispronounced that name because it's French, I'm sorry. But that channel released a new long video, and basically they went to the Zag studio and sort of saw some behind the scenes, and some of it was actually on the New York special, so if you wanted to check out those videos that I made on that, you can go ahead and the links will be down in the description below. But one thing that was accidentally released, as you know, because they were just sort of touring the studio and they were showing them stuff, and one person was showing them some Max related stuff or some Pegasus related stuff, and they were switching monitors with Alt Tab, and we actually saw one of their windows of the Queen Bee, so this will be interesting. So as you can see, this is the new Queen Bee. Now obviously it's not like a complete render, they're still modeling it or something like that. This isn't the fully rendered version. But I think the big thing about this is there's a huge debate online saying, is this Chloe or is this not Chloe? Because you have people saying, yeah, this looks like Chloe, and then you have people saying, no, it doesn't really look like Chloe. And it's really hard to tell because the image is so low resolution that it's really hard to get a pinpoint as to the exact proportions, and it's hard to like it's hard to find like a Chloe face that you can match side by side, because if you try to scale up the image, it just gets so pixelated. But before we go ahead and talk about that debate, I did want to talk about sort of the hat, because something is going on with the hat. This character is wearing a hat, and we don't necessarily know why. Like, is this just a part of the new Queen Bee costume? Because we don't really see the Miraculous, because it's a hairpin, but in this, the hat would be covering it. So I don't know necessarily why this character is wearing a hat. Assuming that the hat is not the Miraculous, and the Miraculous is underneath the hat, this will be the first time that a Miraculous holder is actually covering their Miraculous, which I think is really interesting. I don't know if that has any impact on the show whatsoever, but it is something that I thought I would mention. Now, another thing about this character is that her hair is down. Now, I don't know if you remember, maybe like a year ago or so, there was actually a new, it was sort of similar to this actually, where it was very hard to see, but it was of the next Queen Bee, and it was very hard to tell because the angle was just super bad. But it did confirm that the next Queen Bee would have blonde hair again, and this is just further confirmation that this character does have blonde hair. Now, as far as if this character is Chloe or not, I think it's maybe too soon to tell, but I mean, just looking at the face structure, it does really look like Chloe, and I think that's a bit like the mouth, the nose, just the face structure just really resonates with Chloe. I think it's hard to tell with the long hair, but I think if you just sort of remove the long hair, you could probably tell that it was Chloe. Now, I know there's going to be some people who are like, well, it's probably not Chloe, why would it be Chloe again? But there's actually quite a few reasons why it would be Chloe. Now, a lot of these reasons are not necessarily anything to do with the show itself, but more of the making of the show and the behind the scenes, because I like to, when I have my opinions, I like to base them based off of things in the show, as well as things that are realistic outside of the show. So the first and the biggest thing I think that's important to tell here is that it just simply does not make sense from a business standpoint. Maybe it doesn't, maybe it does, but I don't think it would make sense to make a bunch of merchandise for a character that would not show up past a few episodes. You know, like they have tons of Queen Bee merchandise and stuff like that, and that's obviously based on the pretense that Chloe is Queen Bee, right? And so if they were to just change the character, why would you make a bunch of merchandise for a character that's only going to appear like once or twice, right? To me, that doesn't make sense. Maybe it does make sense because, hey, you can market this one character that only appears like once or twice, and then you can also market the secondary character. But to me, like, I don't know, maybe that's just my own personal opinion that thinks it's bad, but I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me. Now, the second reason why I think it makes sense that this might be Chloe is that they would have to introduce a new character. Remember, we don't really know any character that looks like this aside from Chloe, right? So they would have to introduce a new character that looks oddly similar to Chloe, right? And why would they want to do that? Why would they want to make a character that looks very similar to Chloe, just with hair down instead of hair in a ponytail? So that also doesn't necessarily make too much sense. And my third reason was going to be that this character is very similar to Chloe, but I've sort of already touched on that in the previous point, so I guess it doesn't necessarily make too much sense. Now, assuming that this is Chloe, in what context is this Chloe? Because one option, I think, is that maybe this is just a future version of Chloe, right? Maybe Chloe changed her hairstyle and she matured a lot, and so now she's actually willing and fit to be a Miraculous holder. Now, assuming that this was not Chloe from the future and this was Chloe of season 4 or 5, right? We don't know when we will be seeing Chloe, or this character, I should say. But assuming she's not from the future, and assuming that this is in fact Chloe, we're making a lot of assumptions here. How is Chloe allowed to have the Miraculous again? Because obviously Hawkmoth knows that Chloe is Queen Bee, and that obviously led to a lot of problems in season 3. So why would they run that risk again? Well, this sort of ties back in to the hair down and the hat, because obviously they have to change their appearance, and if they can just change the appearance just a little bit, you know, adding just a small little hat would make Hawkmoth and pretty much any other person in the show be like, oh wow, this is a completely different character, because that's how Miraculous logic works. So thinking about it logically, if the characters that were previously revealed and like Hawkmoth figured out their identity in season 3, if they were to simply just change sort of a little bit of what their design looks like, they can probably easily get away with still being the same person. And I think that's sort of what they're going to do, because it just does not make sense, not just for Chloe, but also for Rena Rouge, Carapace, and all the other characters. Like, they spend a lot of time developing those characters, and why would they just let that all be ruined by Hawkmoth figuring out who they were in season 3? Whereas if they can just change their appearance a little bit, like have a different hairstyle, maybe a couple different clothing items, then they can completely mask their identity again and make Hawkmoth think, okay, well, these probably aren't the same characters, even though it's painfully obvious that they are. So I think that's sort of what the goal here is going to be, because like I said, I just don't think it makes sense to develop a bunch of characters and then just have to throw them all away because Hawkmoth figured out their identity. But it is too early to tell right now, but just based off of this Queen Bee image, I think that's more likely to what's going to happen. Now, the final thing I really want to touch on in this video is sort of this Thomas versus Chloe kind of thing, because the whole Chloe arc seemed really weird to me, right? Because I always think, why include something in a show if it's not going to have any importance later on? They had this whole 3-part special on Queen Bee, and in those episodes, Chloe sort of developed as a character, and then they just sort of forgot about it and was like, yeah, Chloe, haha, just kidding, you're not actually becoming a good person. And we had Thomas Ustrick on Twitter saying like, yeah, Chloe's never gonna get the Miraculous again, she's not fit for it, all this stuff. Now, the thing with Thomas, and I want to set this clear, is he is willing to lie to us in order to protect sort of some new developments. So he's really not going to like this leak, because one thing that he did is he lied about Felix. He said that Felix was never going to make an appearance in the actual show, and the reason for that is because he wanted it to be a surprise when it actually happened in season 3. And I'm pretty sure he also said something about Capelonc never being a thing, but I can't remember if that's what it was. But I'm pretty sure there were a couple things where he lied and said, like, yeah, no, this is never coming, and then it eventually did in season 3. And he said that it wasn't going to come just to make it a bigger surprise. So by him saying that Queen Bee is never going to be a thing again, right, Chloe's just a bad person, all this stuff, maybe he's just saying that to maybe, like, get our attention away from, like, yeah, okay, they're probably going to choose a new Queen Bee, instead of it being like, oh wow, Queen Bee is actually going to be Chloe again, and that's a big surprise, right? So I think that is a very real possibility, and I don't expect to hear anything from Thomas about this, aside from maybe like, hey, look, don't share leaks because it's not good or whatever. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really big deal in the future once we actually learn, because if this is in fact Chloe, it reveals quite a lot about where season 4, or if this is a season 4 Chloe, I don't know, like, again, it could be from the future. But assuming that it is season 4 and it is Chloe, it sort of reveals what they're going to be doing a lot. So yeah, I guess we'll have to see if like Thomas comes out and says something, or someone else from the crew comes out and says something. Don't know exactly what this means. But what do you think? Do you think this is Chloe, or do you think it's a different character? Let me know down in the comments, because I do want to hear your feedback. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you did enjoy, you can leave a like and subscribe for more content similar to this, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.